I will start with a very brief introduction and overview of the situation with hazardous substances. It's quite difficult to encompass everything and say in few words about what's the status with contamination by hazardous substances in the Baltic Sea region, but I will try at least. And I have just 2 slides for that. This is probably one of the most recent integrated assessments of the contamination by hazardous substances in the Baltic Sea region that has been compiled for 2018 Ministerial Conference of HELCOM, and that is part of the holistic assessment of this state of environment in the Baltic Sea. And here there was an attempt to demonstrate what is the situation with regards to different substances, and groups of substances included in this assessment are also shown on the right hand side on top on this slide. So you see that there are a number of substances that are jointly monitored, and there is also an information provided to HELCOM from external service data manager. And there are substances of both traditional groups, so to say, like polyaromatics. There are also substances from POPs, persistent organic pollutants, very, very traditional substances like heavy metals, radioactive substances, but also some of more recently assessed and recently included into data management in HELCOM substances like hexabromcyclododecane. I already forgot more or less the name of this substance, and also polybrominated diphenyl ethers, as well as polyfluorooctane sulfonates and polyfluorooctane acid as well, PFOS. That is quite popular within, or hot topic within recent years. And what you can see here also, that in general the whole situation in the region is pretty bad, and the contamination score, so to say, that you see, the legend for the contamination score you see on the left hand upper corner. The whole Baltic Sea basically can be categorized as being in high contamination status. You also see with the pie charts in different sub-basins of the Baltic Sea what is the situation with regards to specific groups of substances, or with general hazardous substances indicator, whether substances are under or below the threshold of contamination. And in general, you can basically say that almost none of the region, except perhaps the Gulf of Riga, surprise, surprise, I'm actually quite surprised about that. They show that, well, in fact, not very surprised, because that's about the data management again and data availability. So for the Gulf of Riga, you see this white pie chart, but that's mainly because the data is not available for properly assessing. That is why, well, also the status of contamination is probably not correct. But in general, it's very difficult to judge in which state we are. So this red color that is across the whole Baltic Sea is basically because of the contamination status that is pretty bad. We can only say that perhaps for the traditional substances like heavy metals, the situation is gradually improving, and the contamination status, because of the sources being addressed for so many years, is getting better, and both deposition as well as inputs with rivers is gradually decreasing. However, for many other substances like POPs, for example, persistent organic pollutants, and polyaromatics, the situation is still the same. What we can also demonstrate at the at another slide is a matrix per substance. And here you can see what is the situation with different substances in different subbasins of the Baltic Sea. So more or less the same as on the previous slide, but here it is shown not on the pie charts, but rather with the dots demonstrating what is the status with regards to the threshold of contamination. And yeah, there are several substances that are still of the high concern. And for example, polybrominated diphenyl ethers, they are red for almost all of the subbasins. Some of the polyaromatics as well. Mercury, still the same. Lead, also quite still the same. Radioactivity, well, we all know that it's rather difficult to get rid of radioactive fallout of Chernobyl accident that was all over the Baltic Sea, and that is why the status for cesium is so high. And also TBT, organotin compounds, they are also still pretty bad. And well, the matrix also shows different environmental compartments where this is observed. And for example, S stands for sediments, W stands for water, and I think B stands for benthic organisms as well. But well, that has been used as a baseline for developing of new actions to address hazardous substances in the Baltic Sea, and this is now put forward as, again, the basis for the updated Baltic Sea Action Plan. We have just discussed yesterday that at HELCOM meeting with regards to specific actions to be included in the updated Baltic Sea Action Plan, and surprise, surprise, well, there were still questions from some of the contracting parties, what should we do with, for example, mercury? While for many others, it's very obvious that, well, we should probably address deposition sources and these inputs of emissions into the atmosphere. And that's very clear that quite a lot of mercury is coming to the Baltic Sea from, for example, coal burning. We still have that a lot in the region. Well, you do not see on this slide yet another compartment or yet another category of substances that we'll be addressing during this day, and that's pharmaceuticals. You do not see here also pesticides and pesticide management. We will be also addressing that today. And you do not see here plastics, microplastics, and marine litter, though it is included in hazardous substances component of the Baltic Sea Action Plan now. And that will be also addressing today. So with this said, I think I will stop sharing. I will only give you yet another hint where you can find information about the situation with hazardous substances in the Baltic Sea. And that's, wait a second, that is a document also developed by HELCOM that is called Inputs of Hazardous Substances to the Baltic Sea, and that was released also in 2018. I hope you see it also now on your screen. It is available from HELCOM website, and it gives quite a good overview of the situation with, oh, that's a nice picture of Gdańsk, by the way. Gives quite a good overview of what's being emitted, what's being discharged into the Baltic Sea, what are the inputs, the main inputs of different substances, how much of the substances are discharged or emitted via different compartments and pathways, and how they reach the Baltic Sea, for example, via the rivers or with atmospheric deposition. There is also a little bit of a little section about pharmaceuticals, and I do not want to scroll through the whole document, but you will see here the information basically that was used as a basis for the two slides that I've shown you just a minute before.